Hi, welcome to Keco. My name's Kev. Today we're going to go through some hammers. How this all came about was via this, really. This was the Craftsman, the Vaughan, whichever. This has been a staple of many PDR technicians for years and years and years. Never built as a PDR hammer. And they're actually not particularly comfortable to use. I think we've just got used to using them. So we got 4 handles here. We have a 7-inch plastic. We have an 8-inch carbon. We have a 12-inch carbon, and we have a 16-inch carbon. A hammer handle there to suit every type of situation we're going to come up against. Next, we have the 2 hammer ends, the 2 ball ends. So we have blue and black. See, we can customize them as you see fit. You know, we have certain configurations available on the website, but you can go through and buy all this stuff individually and build your own hammer. That's a great thing about the modularity of this system. This was designed to fit very nicely on the end of the shaft. Now, where the Vaughan hammer used to fail, or any of the wooden handle hammers that are available off the shelf, was they're just not very comfortable. You know, most people, they're obviously going to hold a hammer like this, whereas we're typically going to hold a hammer in the palm of our hand. So when that hammer's pivoting, we can get calluses and can get quite painful. So having this in here now, it's now a very, very nice articulation. There's no wear, there's no harshness, and it also enables us to flick the hammer head over into multiple directions, and we're still going to get that comfort that we like. So on the carbon, because this is a matte carbon, there is a slight rough texture for this, so it's nice to grip hold of. On the plastic handle, we have these ridges. Now the ridges they don't go all the way to the base. If I put this end in here, what you didn't want to do is, if you're holding this hammer like this, as it's going up and down, if there's ribs down here, they'd start hurting your finger. So we took the ribs off down the bottom, but left the ribs up the top just for that little bit of extra grip. So again, you know, comfort over everything. That's the ball ends. We have increased the weight slightly. So on the plastic setup, you know, if we was to go with the steel head over the Vaughan hammer, it's ever so slightly heavier, but the weight is in the back end. We just wanted to try and bring that balance back a little bit, so it makes it easier to swing that head. The head weight's the same, but there's a little touch of extra weight in the back here. Moving on to the hammer heads. So we have 3 main hammer heads. They're both identical in every way, except one is stainless steel and one is aluminium. So what's unique about these? We've tried to make the profile of the head as narrow as we possibly can. So obviously we are governed somewhat by the thread length. We don't want to make the thread length, obviously the receiver, too short that the threads are going to keep coming out. We tried to make this as compact as we possibly can. Bolt down the middle, so literally on any one of these hammers, it has an insert in here, a little hex insert. So clips in, and then there will be below rings that sit on these that will become supplied with the hammer. There we have our 8-inch carbon shaft, we have the blue anodized ball, and we have the steel head. What I always liked about this hammer is I always like striking on the bridge, but these hammers have a rib down the middle of the bridge, which means you have to file them down or grind them down, whatever. So we put a stainless steel plate on the back here. Now, that's all great when you've got a stainless steel head. When you've got an aluminium head, we had to put the stainless steel plate in there. So that's there so you can actually strike quite happily on a metal knockdown, and you're not going to damage the aluminium from the top of the head. On the other side, we have a piece of leather. This leather was chosen for thickness, the diameter of it, you know, so it gave a feel very similar to a paddle. So if you're working on a roof rail, you're just doing some cleanup work, maybe using like the likes of a VIP knockdown, you know, something metal to do detail. Striking that with that leather pad, obviously it's going to stop the echoing that sometimes gets annoying in shops, but it's also going to give you that nice precision. It's going to be weighted quite nicely. What we've found is people that have bought these hammers, they've ended up going with both heads and then putting the aluminium head on the longer shaft and the steel head on the shorter shaft. I thought the steel head would be more suited to the plastic handle, and that's what it was designed for. And I found myself on numerous occasions actually having the steel head on the 12-inch hammer shaft. So, like I say, there's plenty of scope for you know, for mixing things up a touch. The two main tips that are going to come with this are these two here. So we have two different geometers. We have a hardened nylon, and then we have a softer, more rounded. In fact, they've both got a good piece of roundness to them. So these are both on aluminium plates as well, so they're nice and light. There's a very, very nice low profile hammerhead. What you'll notice as well is how much slimmer the top of the head is. So what it's doing is bringing the actual contact patch of the tips closer to the panel. Reason being, when you lay this down, in order to get this hammer square, you're going to have to, for most people, you know, obviously there's guys out there with fairly large hands, but most people I've watched then have to bring the wrist up in order to, if they're blending or tapping down on multiple crowns, this is what's going to happen. It's an unnatural position for that wrist to be in. The other thing when that's happening as well, it alters our body position. So if we're coming around a rear quarter, what will happen is, rather than having your head close to the panel, as your wrist comes up, naturally your head's going to come up with it. And that's not what we're wanting when we're tapping down. So this just has a much lower profile. You can see there's quite a large difference. So now when we place this on the panel, it's coming down, we have that pivot. It's a very nice natural feel to the wrist. So that was something that was quite important to me that I wanted to see. I know I watch guys, you know, we train regularly, and I wanted people to be comfortable as they possibly can. And this has allowed that comfort to come into play. So really, really pleased with how these have worked out. Steel heads, just like I say, you can have the same head setup. You just got that little extra weight in there, very similar to the Vaughan hammer that most of us know and love. It's entirely up to you. Buy one, buy two, you know, buy whatever it is you're happy with. Then we have this. This is a very, very small. Again, it's lower profile still than this head, and it's actually shorter in height. So this was, I knocked this one up originally as a design for like an extended knockdown. So this was designed to go in the end of our hammer. As you can see now, it's a very, very low profile head. And we have our striker. My initial thought for this was to take a tip. Again, now we have obviously we had a ball on the end there, and it to become an extension for knocking down. If you're working on hail on a roof, or you're working on a rear quarter, you can't quite get, you can't hold your knockdown where it is you need to be because you're coming too close. It just enables us to work these together. But what I found is a lot of people have loved it because the fact it is super light. It's about another ounce lighter than our aluminium head. Now it doesn't have the two extra striking surfaces. It only has these two that come in here. I think the head on this is something like, it's like 0.7 of an ounce, so it's really, really light. So what some people are finding is they're just popping a tip on there, ultra low profile now, and they're using it as a blending hammer. Now all of the heads have O-rings on there, so you're not going to have to worry about them undoing, which is a characteristic of striking something with a thread on it. You can be using whatever way you find most comfortable, but it is a very, very, very comfortable set of hammers, loads of different lengths. These tips here, again, these are peak tips, and I've shrunk the height down as much as we could. So these are, I believe, about 3/4 of an inch long. So they're quite a bit shorter than most of the industry standard tips out there. Again, my thing is, you know, why would I want a really big long knockdown? It just means, say I'm going to have to anchor my arm up higher, which the higher I go, the more I drive into the panel, into what I'm doing. And obviously I want to keep distance. Rather than swinging a hammer around up here, it just gives me that little bit more control. But yeah, they're peak materials, so very, very good, self-lubricating, not going to scuff your panel up. I have this little pivot tip at the back here. This is actually a favourite of Danny Hacker. He likes this one for crown work. So these pivot tips, they're a very overlooked tip, and they're really great in their operation. So they have Inside the tip, they have a metal plate, a little metal washer, so you're not going to get that punch through that you can sometimes get on a standard tip. A rounded one, so it's got a little radius on there, and we have a flat version. You can see that very well. So two different versions on there, rounded and flat. Great for crown work. As I say, you can, if you're working on something like on a rail, what that can do, that when you come back in, it allows you to hit the top of the rail without having to bring your arm right up like this to get this tip quite square. So these are a very, very good tip. That's our range of hammers. Like I say, there is hundreds of different variations. We've got tons of them set up on the website. Like I say, any questions, again, reach out to us, give us a call, drop us a message. Hope to see these being used in lots of videos.